that people love the yams from Gombe. So there is Gombe has a lot of yams, cassava, maize, tomato, groundnut, on and on and on. And the government...
Abuja, we will be following all of that today. What's happening with business, Ayo?
Definitely kind of drawing from, of course, you can see the NOI Post information. But business this morning is going to be drawing from that headline news from the CBN, which, of course, we'll be getting into shortly. But today on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, we'll be focusing on regulating POS operations in the country. I think it's going to be quite exciting, especially for micro, small, and medium enterprises who get their payment for their services through such a forum as this. Well, that's at 10 o'clock. Later on this morning, we'll bring that to you at the top of the next hour. In the meantime, let's take you straight to the papers today. We'll begin a look at the papers this morning with the New Telegraph newspaper, which leads with Cybersecurity Levy. NLC, OPS, others demand immediate reversal of CBN's directive. And look at the riders. Say it's more burden on already suffering Nigerians. Nation's cashless policy confusing, citizens overcharged. Described to OPS. Levy, another stealth tax on private sector, according to Nasima, as Serap gives FG 48 hours to withdraw directive or face legal action. That's the lead story of the New Telegraph. And how about the Nigerian Tribune? Cybersecurity levy will add more burden on Nigerians, that's according to experts. Say FG should suspend it to save businesses from running down. Levy, another subtle tax on private sector, according to Nasima. Put implementation on hold, says CPPE. Serap gives Tinubu CBN 48 hours to withdraw unlawful levy. That is from the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Look at the Guardian newspaper. FG shuns financial inclusion, imposes more taxes on citizens, depositors. That story is on page 6. The infographic on the front page is depositors' taxes, and taxes is in inverted commas, all kinds of things, 2%, individual cash deposit above limit, corporate cash deposit above limit 3%, SMS alert 4 naira, statement of account 200 naira, on and on and on. The details on the front page continues on the inside pages. Several other stories on the front page, but that's the lead story of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Daily Trust newspaper has the same story, and look at it. NLC CSOs reject cybersecurity levy. Serap threatens to sue FG. It's another burden on Nigerians, that's ascribed to experts. Daily Times has the same story. Outcry over CBN's cybersecurity levy on bank transactions. NLC demands immediate reversal. That story is on page 4. Now, the pictures you see on the front page are of damages done to popular tourist spot Landmark Beach Resort due to the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, just in case you're wondering what the pictures are about. But the lead story has details on page 4. The Nigerian Observer has this on its front page. Nigerians oppose cybersecurity levy as Serap gives FG 48 hours to rescind policy. The details on the front page. It continues on the inside pages. Nigerian News Direct has this one. Cybersecurity levy ill-timed will impact adoption of digital transactions. That's according to Anderson. As CBN exempts 16 transactions, Serap alleges levy violates constitution, human rights regulations. The details on the inside pages of the paper today. Blueprint newspaper goes in another tangent for its lead story. Fresh impeachment move. Fubara, Rivers APC, flex muscles. Clark writes IGP over danger. We shall invoke relevant sections of the Constitution. That's one of the riders, and it's ascribed to the APC chair. RVSG says indigents will resist 27 lawmakers, PDP mum. Details on the front page and continues on the inside pages. Daily Independent has that same story. Rivers crisis comes to a head as APC asks Assembly to impeach governor. Riders use magistrate court to try pro-Wike lawmakers. PDP reps tell governor. Say 27 lawmakers lack legitimacy to amend procurement law. Want them declared wanted, prosecuted for alleged impersonation. Ask INEC to conduct election to fill vacant seats and save rivers. Clark writes IGP over impending breakdown of law and order in state. Details you'll find on page 29. And of course, it has the cybersecurity story as well at the bottom of the page. The Vanguard newspaper has a different headline. Oil block. FG removes signature bonus to woo investors. And look at the riders. Signature bonus, highest in Nigeria, says Lukubiri, adds oil will remain relevant to Nigeria's economy. 667 firms eyeing 57 oil blocks on offer. The details you find on page 5 of the paper this morning. Mr. and Mrs. has this one. I like everything in that soup, especially the stockfish. How can I get this type of soup regularly? And Mrs. responds, invest in stock exchange. Give me money, you get plenty of stockfish. And that's a look at some of the headlines this morning. What's your take? Well, the interesting part of that, stock, well, it's one of those words, homonyms, homograms, homophones, whichever one it is, I don't know. But the front page of the Guardian newspaper is what I'm picking on this morning. But it's one of those stories in little boxes at the bottom of the page. Abandoned 4,837 export containers at Akpakpa port causes stir. Natural question should be why. Now, I remember sometime not too long ago, maybe about a year or two ago, the president of the AFDB, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, was saying that it is cheaper to export from Nigeria than it is from Ghana, and give all kinds of analysis as to why that is the case. The question we should be asking ourselves is why this has happened. Is it a global best practice? Is it a standard practice for there to be 4,000, almost 5,000 open containers, almost 5,000 containers, empty containers at the Apapa port, used, and they're just sitting right there? What are the risks? And then it's occupying quite a lot of space, I dare say. Now, we have been talking about congestion at the ports for so long. The question a number of people will be asking is why this has happened and why this has lingered. Maybe the report, the details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper this morning will tell us for how long these containers have been there, for how long they have been piling up. Who are the people responsible for this pileup? Are these also going to be charged demurrage before they are removed from there? What happens if they are not removed? Countless questions. And I know that, of course, we all know that export containers are used for diverse other things. Why are they still there? It begs a lot of questions about the entire process of exporting. We are talking, for instance, about increasing our productivity and doing more exporting so that we can gain more dollars and reduce the cost of the naira. I don't know whether or not these things are related, but it's definitely a cause for concern. Almost 5,000 containers lying idle at the Apapa port, and one wonders why and for how long they've been there. Maybe the question should be asked and answered by the authorities themselves this morning. That's my take this morning, Kayla.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, this cybersecurity levy is on the front page of almost every newspaper this morning.
Yeah.
But there's quite a lot of other things going on, and we're going to get into that conversation. I hear our guest is already on. We're going to be talking to him via Zoom, shortly. But to look at other things, because the conversation about that levy, it's a very important one. We're seeing that the labor unions are giving ultimatums again. I don't know if that's going to be enforced. Is there some kind of explanation as to why this levy is there? It's coming up, so just stay with us. We'll be getting to that. But I'm looking at this story here from the Leadership newspaper. The absence of governing councils worsen varsity's crisis, and we're seeing that from page 4 of the leadership newspaper. 42 governing councils dissolved in June of last year. 52 federal universities currently operating without governing councils. 10 federal universities established in 2021 are yet to have governing councils. What's the issue? What's going on here? Does it affect the quality of the education that we're giving in these schools? That is from the leadership newspaper, page 4. Uncertainty gripping most universities over the absence of governing councils. Vice chancellors and unions at loggerheads over running of universities. This is another issue that has to be looked at, the governing councils of the universities in our country and how it's affecting the kind of education we're giving to the younger generation. That's from the leadership newspaper, like I said earlier. More from page 4. And, you know, there are other stories that are going on here. In fact, I saw this one, Ayo. Ayo, this is one I think you might be interested in seeing, as you're one of my fellow nostalgic friends. It's from the Vanguard newspaper. It's at the top of the paper there. And such sad news for those of us who spent our lives watching New Masquerade every Tuesday. Ayo, the headline says, popular, the new Masquerade actress Ovularia. For those of you who watched New Masquerade back then, you know who we're talking about. Ovularia died on Sunday at the age of 81. More on the details of that death on page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. And I know you can remember how, you know, Chief Zebradayo Koribo would come up and shout, Ovularia, Ovularia, and she would come out, you know, and, you know, it was such a nostalgic time and such a sad story there, but she is loved by a lot of Nigerians there. Ovularia dies at the age of 81. Ayo, do you remember New Masquerade?
How in the universe can I forget? If you ask me to sing the song, I will. And I also remember that the artist that did the signature tune of that very, very beloved sitcom is an organization, a band called Peacock Organization. It's something that so many people will never forget. Just not too long ago, I think it was about the past 1 week, I saw a picture of Ovularia in the 80s and her picture before she died. This is definitely a very sad and touching one, and she's one of those people that helped so many people to escape depression in their day, when it was in those days that the austerity measures and all of those other economic upheavals were beginning to touch on Nigerians. She definitely will be so missed. Well, that said about the papers, let's take a short break now and a few messages. And when we return, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now, let's get into that conversation that everyone is talking about already. The Central Bank of Nigeria on the 6th of May, and that, of course, was just 2 days ago, gave that directive to Nigerians, particularly the banks. Take a look at this.
The Enhancing Financial Innovation and Access report shows that while 71% of urban adults have bank accounts in Nigeria, only 40% of those in rural areas have accounts. This has been largely attributed to insufficient infrastructure to support financial transactions. But there are a handful of Nigerians who were reluctant to embrace the electronic world because of charges. Currently, up to about 10 charges are attached to various electronic transactions, compounded by the now introduced cybersecurity levy. While the legality of the cybersecurity levy is founded on the Cybercrimes Prohibition Prevention Act, amended 2024, the interpretation seems to leave some gaps.
What does the law say? Section 44, subsection 2 talks about 0.5% of all transactions, electronic transfers. But the Act says these transactions should be deducted by businesses. And then it goes further in the schedule to list 5 types of businesses that fall within the ambit of this regulation. Talks about GSM, internet service providers, banks and financial institutions, insurance companies, and the stock exchange. So these 5 entities are the businesses that are bound by that section 44 sub 2. And then you now have the guidelines from CBN. First of all, there are other legal issues that come within the foray of this conversation. Does CBN have the powers, to issue these guidelines pursuant to this law? Does the Act empower them?
Adding this new tax to the already existing 40% tax on business profit and the possible discouragement to the adoption of cashless policy are also to be considered.
I imagine the implication of this now, first for the cost of doing business. I imagine the implication for what the government itself is even trying to do to harmonize taxes. As at 2023, e-payments data was 600 trillion. So if you are taking 0.5% of that, you are talking about close to maybe 3 trillion.
Harmonization of taxes has been the focus of the Taiwo Oyedele-led Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, which seems not to have been involved in this new levy, as a statement from Mr. Oyedele notes. The new cybersecurity levy has come to the notice of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee. We are currently reviewing the new tax and engaging internally with relevant stakeholders to understand the rationale for it and decide on the next steps. While the CBN has highlighted some exemptions to the application of the levy to include loan disbursements and payment, salary payment, intra-account transfers, transactions on long-term investment, non-profit and charitable transactions, banks recapitalization-related funding, and 10 others, there are questions as to how such transactions can be properly differentiated for implementation, as well as how to avoid abuse. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
Well, that's the background to this conversation, and so let's go ahead and have that conversation with Mr. Marcel Okeke, who is an economist and former bank chief economist, joins us virtually, as Kela said earlier. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mr. Okeke. Well, 0.5% it is said, but cumulatively it can be quite significant. What's your take on, first of all, that particular regulation according to law, and the furore, the hula baloo that's arisen as a result of that directive from the CBN?
Well, thank you very much for having me once again in this program. The truth is that the government appears not to be sensitive, to the feelings of the generality of Nigerians, because this is one more tax too many. Okay, especially the timing. Why it's coming now, when there is, serious outcry in the polity, about people suffering, have high rate of inflation, have naira battered in the foreign exchange market, have people going through all kinds of challenges and all that. And here we are hearing that another kind of tax is being imposed on practically everybody, because almost everybody uses the bank or uses technology, in transferring money. So at the end of the day, many people are already kicking against it. All kinds of interest groups, stakeholders are kicking against it. And one begins to wonder, how the government is taking its decisions, whether it's against the people or for the people or in the interest of the people. And like somebody pointed out, while it's, tax harmonization committee headed by Taiwo, I think Oyedele, is still ongoing. So how come this one so suddenly? At least I believe that the government, the president has the power to even suspend it if he doesn't want it implemented at this point in time. So Nigerians are worried. The NLC is already kicking against it and threatening to, embark on strike. now the students' body are already kicking against it and threatening to be on the streets, and so on and so forth. So I am also joining them in wondering why this kind of tax should come up at this point in time. Honestly.
Well, one of the questions that a number of people want to first of all ask you is this something novel to Nigeria, or is something that exists in other parts of the world as well?
I have tried to do my research, and I'm unable to find out another country or place where this kind of levy is on. Cybercrime levy. I am unable to find out where it's on. Maybe the government want to use whatever is realized to start fighting the cybercrime or what? I don't understand. And moreover, the direct implication is that it's likely to work against this cashless economic policy. You understand? And inclusion policy. So that because many people will now resort to not using that channel to effect transfer. And so the progress that has been made in that regard of financial inclusion and cashless economy is likely to be lost. You understand?
Okay. Now it is in the law, and the Cybercrime Act, if I remember correctly, was first passed in 2015, and there's been a lot of conversation around it up until, of course, now. Even now, of course, this new provision is perhaps a product of the amendment made in this year. Now, there are other things that the CBN said in the report that has been put out, in the statement that they put out, along the fact that this Cybercrime Act, this levy that is being talked about by everyone, has certain exclusions. For instance, a number of, a list of people, a list of transactions, exemptions from the cybersecurity levy. 16 of such transactions are exempted. How significant is that for you?
I have gone through those exemptions. The truth is that it will be difficult, to even implement the so-called exemptions. But what we are seeing now is what is called announcement effect.
Why do you think it will be difficult to implement the exemptions?
It will be difficult because, as an individual, if you are holding your phone or whatever and you want to effect the transfer, I wonder how you will indicate to the processing channel or the processing mechanism for them to recognize, what you are pushing through, especially at the initial stage, so that the bank, through which it will go, will recognize and, exempt you from being taxed. It will be difficult at the initial stage, but I believe that going forward, you find a way to do all that, because that is the power of technology. But I am saying that overall, a lot of people want to avoid and evade, if you like, this kind of tax. It's a serious disincentive to financial inclusion. It's a serious disincentive to the cashless economy. Any person that has any bank branch around his house would rather move to the bank branch. And so you now start seeing a crowd of people in banking halls, that the government has been trying to reduce or eliminate over the years. You understand? And for Nigeria to join the developing or developed world. But now this policy has the potential to reverse whatever we have gained. That's my point.
Okay, well, you've twice talked about financial inclusion this morning, Mr. Okeke, and the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning tends to speak about the same thing, and it says something like this right there on the front page, that FG has shunned its financial inclusion plans by imposing more taxes on the people, and a number of other issues are raised there. As a matter of fact, there are those who have also listed, the report we played earlier, listed a number of deductions from bank transactions, whether intra-bank or interbank. How do you think, maybe by way of counsel, this should have gone out? On the one hand, it is a cybersecurity levy. On the other hand, it is a levy. So is there a balance you think we should be looking at? Because cybercrime is definitely something significant. I mean, nobody can remonstrate the significant crime that cybercrime is. The cybersecurity is vulnerable to over the past few years. Just yesterday, I was at a session where someone is talking based on the data protection law that has also been put out by the federal government, that some young boys, not in Nigeria, in different parts of the world, are able to do these things, perform these cyber crimes, almost willy-nilly. Even on a hospital bed, they're carrying out these kinds of things in different parts of the world. So on the one hand, it is a levy. On the other hand, it's a cybersecurity levy. Do you think it is something needed at this time?
Let us not be confused by the nomenclature. However you put it, whether levy or whatever, is all tax imposed on the people, and is imposed on everybody. That's the point. At the end of it, whatever comes in from that kind of tax or levy, maybe the intention is now to use it to fight cybercrime, by the Office of the National Security Advisor. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. Could this money have not come from any other source, from within the government purse, from within the government coffers? Could this money for fighting cybercrime or cyber criminality, could it not have come from another source, from within government coffers or the purse, rather than the already impoverished people, rather than the people who already bearing the burden of so many kind of taxes and taxation? All economic agents, whether as an individual, whether as a family, whether as business, is part of the problems that we have here. In kinds of in the direction of attractive business, multiplicity of taxes, confusion. Okay. The Taiwo panel we are talking about has not come up with its final report to harmonize these things, so that we see whether it provides any briefer or or has lessened the burden of the people in any manner. And here we are now hearing about another kind of tax. So I mean, I don't find a reason to justify it at this point in time.
All right. Well,
I don't find a reason to.
Yeah, Mr. Idele actually has put out a statement that you also saw in that report, saying that we're studying it and conversing with stakeholders to ensure, to see how we can move forward. Just one more issue before I throw it to my colleague in Abuja. The levy, according to the statement from the central bank, in terms of the implementation that you talked about earlier, it says the levy shall be applied at the point of electronic transfer origination, then deducted and remitted by the financial institution. One of the issues that has been raised is that the law says that it is something that is supposed to be done by the businesses and not the banks. Do you see any pathway where we can actually, have a kind of a concourse so that there is agreement about this? Or do you think it is something that should be suspended outrightly, being that it is in the law?
Thank you very much. If it is suspended by the President and Commander-in-Chief of Nigeria at this point in time, it will not be the first law to be suspended by the President. So the government should be very sensitive, towards the feelings of the people on who they are imposing the taxes. From what is being said, you said it, the furore, the hula balloon, you used all this word earlier on. The way it's been discussed all over Nigeria, even before the thing takes off. It's enough to tell the government that these people don't want it. They're already overburdened by multiplicity of taxes and the general hardship in the economy. So for me, I will advise that let it be suspended, because at the end, after all, is the amendment to the existing law earlier this year, that's empowering them to go ahead and implement it. It's not as if this has been in place over the years. And so it can still be suspended in the interest of the government. There are a lot of things the government needs to get right. And I don't want to go into all of that now. So let them put things in place before this kind of task, if it must come into place. That's my position. Thank you.
Well, just in case the federal government doesn't agree with you, they said it's 0.05 of the levy, of these transactions, 0.5%. That's 0.005, equivalent to 0.5% of all electronic transactions value by the business specified in the second schedule of the Act. In simple English, how much is 0.5% of any transaction? Just to be clear, just so Nigerians have a clearer picture on why there is such noise about it.
Let me tell you, I'm a mathematician, but I don't want to go into the mathematics. But the truth is that any digital transaction you do, especially transfer, banks have already imposed so many charges. You understand? Including account maintenance, all kinds of charges. That is why if you look into the financials of banks, the annual report, you show they make a lot of money from non-interest income. This is that kind of thing we're talking about. So there are already existing charges. This one is not the only one. And that is why people are angry. I must tell you, people are angry and worried that we are adding this one. So that if you do a transaction of 10,000, you transfer 10,000 to somebody, these people will now take 0.5%. Or if you, the way you called it, from that transaction, the banks will still go ahead and impose all kinds of charges and surcharges. So when you add all of this, it's the same transaction. You understand? So it is not encouraging people to do what the government would have expected to do, which is embracing technology in banking and all that. That is my concern. You know,
so,
yes.
KK, I mean, you're basically sharing the views of a lot of people, you know. Hello, Mr. KK, can you hear me? Okay. So you're basically, you know, pointing out the views of a lot of people, especially Labour, and, you know, they're talking about the burden this has on depositors. And, you know, with the burden that depositors already carry, you know, this seems like a bit much. But are there any upsides from the standpoint of an economist? This levy, is there any way it helps depositors? You know, because many people, the amount of hacking I've heard of, at least in the last few months, hacking of people's accounts, it's been very troubling. Is this any sort of help in that regard?
Not to misunderstand the issue. The truth is that the levy does not translate to controlling what you have just said now.
The levy does not in any way no impact on it at all, because for many people who heard about this yesterday, they were thinking, wait, hold on, is it possible? Because you see, there are so many things about this particular levy. It's a law, first of all. It's the section 4442A of the Cybercrimes Act of 2024. So they didn't just create it and try to impose it on people. It's actually been there. A levy of 0.005, equivalent to 0.5% of all electronic transactions value by the business specified in the second schedule of the Act. And this money, they say, is to be remitted to the National Cybersecurity Fund, which will be administered by the Office of the National Security Advisor. So that gave a lot of people the idea that, okay, wait, hold on, maybe this is supposed to help in some way. Are you saying it has nothing to do with that?
The amount of money spent on a project or in the pursuit of any objective does not translate into necessarily translate into the success of that project or success of that pursuit of that objective. And one of them is this one. So it doesn't mean they hire the money that is realized from this fund. The more likely it is that the rate of cybercrime will go down. You understand? Rather, what you hear now is sooner than we expect all kinds of scandal in managing this fund. We are all in this country, and we know funds like that have been in existence over the years and how they are managed. And now you're talking about cybercrime. That some guys will be in their bedroom and perfect it, and anybody can be anywhere and perfect cybercrime, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't translate that the more money that the National Security Fund attracts, you know, the more likely it is to fight, you know, this crime within Nigeria. As a matter of fact, cybercrime is something global. You understand? Somebody here could be hacking business anywhere on the surface of the earth. You understand? So it is doubtful, let me put it that way, whether money that will be collected, you know, through this levy will necessarily translate into effectively fighting, you know, cybercrime within the Nigerian, you know, boundaries. It is doubtful. So I am not in any way encouraged, and I in no way buy into implementing the levy, especially now, because it's the government of the day that has done whatever amendments in the existing law to activate it at this point in time. They should be very sensitive to the sufferings of Nigerians and suspend this kind of thing. It may not be properly removed, but suspend it. That's my position. Thank you.
So we're talking a little bit about electronic payments. And in fact, very interestingly, the Guardian newspaper this morning has the value of money that has been made from electronic payments in the past years. I'm just going to look at it. For 2023, 600 trillion naira in electronic payments in the past 8 years. Beg your pardon. 2022, 387 trillion naira, 272 trillion naira in 2021. As someone from that sector, talk to us a bit about these payments, these electronic payments that are constantly being made. Are these, what do they translate? Are they being used for anything that is beneficial to the depositors? Just so we can understand our money is not just going into their hands. Is it being used for anything?
Yes, it's being used. People are saved the trouble of going to banking halls to struggle, for bank tellers or whatever to attend to them. From the comfort of your room or wherever you are, you transfer, any volume to wherever you want it to get to without using a check and other instrument. You understand? And people have gotten used. So many Nigerians have gotten used to this process. You understand? And so this law now that is coming to place, this levy, will be a serious disincentive for people to use such electronic channels in doing transfers and all the businesses, the activities they back on a daily basis. People buy all kinds of things, and rather than paying cash, or they transfer money into a dedicated account or nominated account, and so on and so forth. All that is what this law is now frontally trying to destroy. Frontally, the law is against it. And so people will begin to do everything to avoid or evade, this kind of tax. Because, like I said, there are already many existing charges and surcharges by banks when you transfer. You do a transfer, especially interbank transfer. May not be interbank transfer, So this one is against that. Is working against the convenience that people have achieved. The proper decongestion of banking halls that have been achieved over the years, So at the end of the day,
you've been talking about that, really, the fact that this will negatively impact, our cashless policy drive in the country.
Yes.
Do you think they didn't think about that before they brought this up? They didn't think that it might have some kind of negative effect on something else that they're trying to do?
Let me tell you, even if they thought about that, the government is giving the impression that certain things, certain decisions, or certain laws coming up in this economy are propelled or they are being forced to embark on them from outside. You understand? Because you see, the government appears desperate to get some facilities from the World Bank and IMF. And those people are giving all kinds of conditions, in terms of domestic revenue generation and so on and so forth. If you look into some literature or some documents now, you see the position of the World Bank and IMF in terms of pushing Nigeria. So one will be tempted to interpret, the implementation of this kind of tax at this point in time, as one of those things that government is being forced to do so that they will get the facility from World Bank and IMF. And the Minister of Finance did say so, that they're expecting 2.5 million, or 2.5 billion, dollars from the World Bank. And so this could be one of the conditionalities, given by the World Bank, or in fact the Bretton Woods institution, the World Bank, IMF, and so on and so forth. That is why you have the electricity tariff going on. That is why you have fuel subsidy removal. That is why you have so many other taxes, coming up at this point in time. Now you ask, are Nigerians in a situation to be paying these levies and taxes at this point in time? You understand? Even the civil servants, even people on their own, those who have are losing jobs. When many companies are leaving the economy, people, so thousands of millions of people are losing their jobs, and you're imposing the taxes endlessly. Do they go together? This kind of thing. So because we have to think about the economy in the widest sense of the word, We don't have to narrow it to just making money for the government. And at the end of the day, the money will be somewhere. It's likely to be mismanaged and misappropriated, just like the billions and trillions we are now hearing that have been misappropriated in some other government agencies. What is different about Nigerian cybersecurity fund? What will be different? So I pity Nigerians.
Not convinced about this at all, and neither the labor unions, NLC, OPSs are asking for a reversal of this directive. Do you think there will be a reversal? Do you think it's going to be reversed?
I am not in government, and I'm not government, but I will advise them to suspend it. To suspend it so that we are looking at the economy when things really begin to pick up. You understand? You know, certain taxes or whatever levies could come into place. But the way it is now, many Nigerian, the economy is almost prostrate. You understand? You understand? People are impoverished. People are poor. So any kobo you want to take away from them, in addition to where they're already down there, I mean, you'll be provoking the anger of the people. And I want government to
anywhere else in the world, this cybersecurity levy, is it paid anywhere else in the world?
I have done some kind of research, and I'm yet to see anywhere. The money be raised from the people. There are other sources the government can make money. Like we are saying, if you check, you have education levy. You have the normal income tax, okay? You have company income tax, all kinds of taxes all over the place, from local government taxes, state taxes, the federal taxes, and so on and so forth. In the same entities, in the same economic agent that are being taxed. You understand? So this one, must the money for the National Security Office come from this source? Must it be the people? People see it now as punitive. Our government is insensitive. And that's what the government should do everything possible to avoid.
Well, thank you very much. But before you go, I want you to be able to get your thoughts on a few other issues here. I think we have a few more minutes before we wrap this up. What can you tell us about the National Cybersecurity Fund? Is there more details to this? Because at least I heard about it for the first time yesterday. What is it about?
Well, my reading shows that the fund, at the end of the day, when this money, the levies are pulled together, will be domiciled in the office of the National Security Advisor and deployed to fighting cybercrime and cyber criminality within the Nigerian territory. You understand? And that's why I said earlier on that the volume of money so collected does not necessarily translate into effective fighting of cybercrime. Because when you talk about cybercrime... But that's what
the fund is for, just so we're clear.
Yes, I'm telling you that the fund we use in fighting the cybercrime within Nigeria. That's what the fund is all about. Whatever they want to put in place, whatever structure, whatever personnel, logistics in terms of fighting cybercrime. But when you see how cybercrime is committed, you begin to wonder whether there's a group of people that go anywhere to meet. It's something that people commit, staying in various locations and all that. So I wonder how the volume of money so collected will translate into effectively fighting the cybercrime. So that is why I say it is one levy too many, one tax too many. Nigerians already being subjected. My position is government can find money from other sources, to really support the National Security Advisor's Office, National Security Advisor's Office, to deploy, doing their work generally, and cybercrime being one of the things, that they have to fight or contend with. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the people by way of levy. And when you look at the levy, like I said, when somebody does a digital transaction, that the banks have now so many levies, so many charges that they put on those people. And now you are adding to that. It's a serious disincentive, honestly, to bank development of banking, especially the digital banking. Thank you.
Kayla, well, Mr. Keke, so now the banks have the instruction from the CBN, and there is this pushback. And the CBN already said, okay, this implementation has to start within about 2 weeks from now. What adjustments should be made between now and then? You may also begin by speaking to the comment from Mr. Oyedele where he says that his committee is in consultation with other stakeholders, perhaps including the CBN, to see how, at a time when they're trying to reduce the number of taxes, this one is being added. What do you anticipate or expect to be the outcome of that collaboration, that meeting, that stakeholder engagement by the presidential task force headed by Mr. Oyedele?
Well, because of the feelings, because of the reactions, we're already getting, from stakeholders, including labor, including students' union leadership in Nigeria, NANS, including the organized private sector. Nobody has spoken in support of that levy. And so I believe that consultation with key stakeholders like this could result into suspension of the levy now.
Now, the SERAP, for instance, is calling for an adjustment of that Section 44, saying that that particular part of the law and the part that penalizes people, criminalizes people for not paying the levy is unconstitutional. The question a number of people would ask, that some other people might be asking is, look, we know that this law was being made by members of the National Assembly, almost 500 of them. They passed this into law, and it became a thing that the president signed into law. So is it that we're not getting good enough representation from the National Assembly, or it is something that was done hush-hush? What exactly do you make of that, the angle of lawmaking, making this into a law by members of the National Assembly?
Well, the government is one. We have one government. National Assembly is just an arm, of the government. It's not a tier of the government. It's an arm of the government. And let me tell you, the executive arm of the government has such power as to influence whatever it wants to influence, whatever law. You understand? So that is even why you now begin to suspect why that law has to come up this year and not last year and not 2 years ago and not 3 years ago. So the executive arm of the government usually ends up getting what it wants to get. And that is why it was expeditiously signed into law by the president of the country. You understand? So you cannot now say because it came from the legislative National Assembly that the executive or the president is kind of compelled to sign it. We are here in Nigeria and have been witnesses to some number of laws like that the president uses his executive power to suspend. And this could be one of them. That's the way I look at it. And I seriously advise that after consultation by the Oyedele committee, that this law could still be suspended because it comes at a point that Nigerians, impoverished Nigerians are suffering the impact of so many existing taxes. Nigerians are suffering from the impact of the state of the economy and so on and so forth. So for the government to implement it at this point in time, it's like there's more to it. That means like I said, it's like external forces are forcing them or pushing them that this must be implemented now. And suspending it will now prove otherwise to the generality of Nigerians. And that is what I subscribe to. Thank you.
Well, what is interesting, Mr. Okeke, is that this is not the first time this particular circular or this particular information is coming from any circular by the CBN. In 2018, the Apex Bank said the levy shall be 0.005 of the service charge, exclusive of all tax effects from all electronic financial transactions occurring in a bank, a mobile money scheme, or other payment platforms. It would seem like it's either we forgot or we didn't know that the CBN had made this earlier. Is there any reason that you think this is being repeated now, or what do you make of that? The fact that this is not the first time this kind of circular or information is being passed to the banks by the CBN?
Government exists for the people and the well-being of the people, for that matter. Nigerians, I'm sorry to say, are not happy. That is putting it euphemistically. The Nigerians are not happy about the state of the economy and how they are being affected by the state of the economy. So bringing any kind of law into place now that will warrant taking more money from their pockets into government coffers is not the wise thing to do. I mean, that is why we're talking about timing, okay? You consider the people that you are taxing.
Mr. Keke, you are not speaking to the fact that this is not the first time this information, this directive is coming from the CBN. It happened in 2018 and it's happening now. Is it that it was never implemented?
I am now telling you that that is why the government will not find this time the most convenient time to now implement it. It is wrong because there are already so many things that are disturbing the people, impoverishing the people, punishing the people. Let me tell you, you know what this government has been dealing with are the unexpected, unintended negative effects of the policies that are put in place since May 29, 2023. The unintended consequences of oil subsidy removal and flotation of the naira. Unintended consequences. That is why what has been occupying the government all this time is what is called palliative, and it's not going. Until it is improved, the government will stop palliative. But it is now gone not only in the dictionary, that has become part of the life of Nigerians, talking about palliative. So what is palliative? It is just a crumb. The government should now focus on kickstarting and leapfrogging the economy. And it's not through taxing people that you leapfrog the economy of this type, you know? So that is why people are getting the impression that some outside forces are now compelling the government to be implementing things that are punitive to the people. That's the impression out there. I'm sorry to say. You understand? Okay. So government should do everything possible to cancel that kind of impression. You know, take it easy. That's what we tell them when it comes to taxation like this and levies like this. There are already too many. They should allow the committee they set up to work and give them the final report instead of going behind them to be starting all this. Yes, it's been there, but why will it be given effect at this point in time? Like you're asking. Why? Why will it be given effect? When the people are the way they are, when the economy is the way it is, when Nigeria as a whole is the way it is, why must it be now that such a policy or such a levy should come in place? It's insensitive on the part of government, honestly.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Keke, there are many people who, as they hear you say, why should it be now? Some others will probably be saying, why not? I guess the government has its job cut out for it to explain to the people and do the needful by the people. Because, as you said, government is for the people and it is by the people. And consequently, the government is compelled to listen to the people. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Marcelo Keke is an economist and a former bank chief economist. Thank you so much for your time and explanation today.
Thank you once more. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, we're going now straight to the Business Morning on Sunrise Daily Studio. I'm almost certain that this is part of the conversation to be had, but particularly the focus is going to be on regulating POS operations. Let's go to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
Thank you so much, Sunrise Daily team. Good morning. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm John Mekwa. We'll do about 30 minutes of business before we head back to that conversation and others that they have prepared for you. Now, let's start from the global space. Oil prices fell in early Asian trade hours on Wednesday after market sources said that data from the American Petroleum Institute showed an increase in the U.S. crude and fuels stockpiles, an indicator of weak demand. Responding to that, we see red color on the board when we look at the numbers. We see Brent dropped 0.3% in that early trade in Asia and has lost that $83 level that it held yesterday, $82.95. And then for WTI of the United States, it's also a drop 0.2% at $78.25 a barrel. Data obviously is driving the market today. Official U.S. government data on stockpiles is due later on today, but both benchmarks fell marginally in the previous session on signs of easing supply tightness. And the EIA updated its forecast for 2024. And I expect world oil and liquids output to grow more this year than earlier projections, and demand to also grow. But of course, we also have that, the ceasefire talks in Gaza that have put pressure on oil prices and is still putting pressure. The U.S. believes that negotiations on a Gaza ceasefire should be able to close the gaps between Israel and Hamas. And U.S. Central Intelligence Agency Director Bill Bonds will travel to Israel today, Wednesday, for talks with Israeli Prime Minister. Hopefully something will come out of that, but it's a red for the oil market this morning. Still talking about oil back here in Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria has released additional guidance on how international oil companies, that's the IOCs, can use their foreign exchange earnings. We had this some months ago. Now it's an update. So according to that news circular signed by the Director Hassan Mahmoud, Director of Trade and Exchange Department, IOCs may immediately hold 50% of their repatriated export proceeds. The circular responds to inquiries from banks and stakeholders and also allows banks to request cash pooling in advance with proper documentation. Furthermore, it specifies that the remaining 50% can be used to fulfill financial obligations within Nigeria over a period of 90 days. Let's look at the Naira close for yesterday. Not a good one. Red from the oil, red to the Naira is what we have. We saw NAFEM is back to 1,416 Naira 57 kobo. Remember yesterday we were celebrating that little win one day again. But it was at 1,354 Naira, just 1 kobo. So for yesterday at the trade, we saw that the Naira lost 4.60%, while on NAFEX it lost 0.26%. But we know that this is where you have a higher part of demand. That's why you see more movement on NAFEM. So NAFEX it closed yesterday 1,403 Naira 7 kobo. I don't know if we're going to be staying on the 1,004 because it looks like that's where we're settling, at least for now. Not so good. Remember, I am still praying for that 700 Naira for a dollar. I don't know if it's just a dream, but it comes back. But this is what the Naira closed with yesterday. We hope it doesn't get worse than this at the close of trade today. Now, yesterday also the Corporate Affairs Commission announced a July 7, 2024 deadline for all major Nigerian fintech POS agents, including the ones you know, the popular ones, and the not so popular ones. Well, the Registrar General, Hussein Magaji, stated this, and it follows an agreement that they reached with the operators and complies with the Central Bank of Nigeria's regulations. The decision was confirmed at a meeting in Abuja. Mr. Magaji says, stressed that the action is equally backed by the law, Section 863, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA 2020, as well as CBN guidelines of agent banking. Well, let's drill more on this. I guess this shouldn't even be a big conversation, you know. A POS, I mean, if you're doing business in Nigeria, you ought to be registered with the CAC. But let's drill down on this and see the realities of it. With the Chief Executive Officer of Ecosystem Limited. He's also the president, the national president of Association of Mobile Money Agents in Nigeria, AMBAN. We have here joining us this morning, Mr. Atunda Fashasi. Mr. Fashasi, thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, my viewers.
Yeah, so I mean, this shouldn't be a big deal. Every business operating in Nigeria should be registered with the CAC. Yeah. So what's the big deal? Why is this getting this reaction?
Honestly speaking, there shouldn't be a big deal. But few things actually made it a big deal. We believe in the market segmentation. Today, you cannot expect nano businesses, you know. You can't force them to go and register. pepper sellers, cobblers, we also have that category in agency banking. So they need to really have the understanding of the structure. Even going by the agency banking policy regulation that they refer to of the Central Bank of Nigeria, there are categories of agents, segmentations. So you have super agents. A lot of them are corporate organizations. They are already registered with CAC. So you have sole agents also who are directly attached to financial institutions. Most of these guys are registered already. I think that is why I'm surprised that it's attracting so much attention, to the extent that the CAC is signing agreements with some selected service providers. Anyway, I see everything in Nigeria as a cash out. It can be a business that we don't understand. So if they are looking at that figure of 1.9 million agents in Nigeria as being unregistered, it's a fundamental mistake. Because when you get to the field, you understand that over 80% of them are actually sub-agents they are just like bank branches of mega banks in Nigeria. You can't expect a GT Bank branch in Ekotedu to go and register with CAC. So when you are looking at that figure, that you are not, putting calculation of revenue into it, it's going to be shocking to them that it's a fundamental blunder. But in terms of registration, I think the due people are registered. Due agents are registered already, except we want to enter Ladipo markets and start asking one-shop owners of selling pepper to be registered with CAC. That is when you can now go down to the rural agents that are only operating with a single location. And these are sub-agents of registered agent network in Nigeria. If you ask them to provide their CAC number, they can provide it. So it shouldn't be a big deal.
But Mr. Bashir, can you assure us as Nigerians, because, there's been allegation of some fraudulent, people use POS to carry out some fraudulent to dupe people, what these strange messages that people do get. So can you assure us that every single POS operator we see is a sub-agent? The nano ones, that they are sub-agent, because I do know that Amban also has a task force.
Yeah, very well.
And I'm sure that I know when you did your outing some weeks ago, you did meet some people that are not registered, and you would agree that there are some people that are not captured in the official structure that are still operating.
I think that's an angle we should look at it. When we read about the reason why CAC is more interested is about fraud prevention, and I look at it that you can't do CAC registration to prevent fraud, for God's sake. So, and it's the responsibility of the Inspector General of Police and DSS and all other sectors, to actually prevent fraud, not CAC. So it's a misplaced of priority. So we are having this conversation with IG already, and Director of SS will be having a meeting next week on how to curb human-related frauds among the POS agents. It's not about CAC registration. And a lot of industry stakeholders are doing a lot in fraud prevention at agent location. Recently, Nigerian Interbank Settlement Scheme, NIPS, actually activated a fraud, reporting channel in all POS channels. So a lot of us are working around how to curb fraud. It is not for CAC to say until they.
So you're saying there's really no need, or perhaps the motivation behind this CAC announcement is not.
It's not genuine. They need to come out and tell us.
But are you having conversations? They did say that they signed MOU with some operators.
A lot of people don't really understand this industry we are. They had meeting with fintech companies, the Hope, the Money Point, which are established institutions. They already registered with CAC. They don't have issues. So they excluded, they have forgotten that there is an entrepreneurial segment in our business. Who are those POS agents that you see outside there? The only umbrella body for them is the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, AMBAN. We are the only one that can speak for them, not service providers.
And you are the national president, so we can hold you accountable to whatever.
When CAC
if anybody gets duped through POS operators, Mr. Bashazi, I will hold you.
Of course, we have whistleblowing channel now. We have also issued out verifiable identity card, because security actually starts from, identity verification. Today, approach anybody handling POS, ask for their, AMBAN identity card. You will be able to verify it and report any fraud. So that is the way it's operating. Yeah.
Okay, and then yesterday we also, it's the circular from the CBN on the cybersecurity levy actually came out 2 days ago, but it was late.
Yeah.
So yesterday it was news everywhere and all of that. And I think we have some slide. Yeah. You're already ready to make money from this, Mr. Fasha. This is not fair at all.
Okay.
This is not fair for you to already, you have already given us what it will cost us.
Yeah.
You know, when we look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well, very well.
This was too fast, because if it was a reduction, I am almost sure that by now we would not have seen this out. But because it's where you guys will add more money, we now see that you already have a list.
Actually, that list is not from us. That list is actually for public enlightenment. That
from who?
No, from our own understanding of things. It's not the charges. We are not referring to the charges of POS agents. We are referring to those charges that are currently being charged by the federal government. You have stamp duty. Stamp duty, 50 naira, now being charged, you know, from 10,000 and above transaction. So these are the statutory charges that are ongoing.
Okay, so you're saying that, I mean, this, the cybersecurity levy is supposed to start from the 20th, because it's 2 weeks from the 6th. So if somebody wants to, already, I think how much, I know about 20,000 naira. If you want to withdraw 20,000, you pay about 500 or 400 naira. Then that means you will now add like 5 naira.
This is additional cost for the cybersecurity based on the circular of Central Bank. But if we are to go by the Cybersecurity Act itself, it's stated that the charges of 0.5% should be on the charges, you understand, on the charges of electronic transfers. The meaning of that is if electronic transfer is costing 20 naira for you to move money, you know, so 0.5% of 20 naira, that is what that policy states. But unfortunately, the CBN memo is saying another thing. The CBN memo is actually factoring 0.5% of the value of transaction. That will be huge, and that will be killing. So the analysis we have here is based on the, CBN. There is a need for us to also reach out to the CBN and ask questions. We can go and look at that Cybersecurity Act, look at what it states. It's about the charges on electronic. You are levying the charges. You are not levying the value of transaction. They need to go back and look at it. We are responding because the memo is actually coming from Central Bank of Nigeria. If it's from another agency, we won't be concerned.
Yeah, because I mean, even as a media station, I mean, the report that was put together yesterday, we also did ask some of those questions. The legality of it, who is supposed to implement it, what exactly does the Act say about who should implement it, and from the Act you also see that it's about 5 businesses, not every transaction that is supposed to be involved. So, but I believe it's an ongoing conversation which we'll get clarity on subsequently.
I think our civil society needs to actually wake up now, because most of these policies, most of these bills, nobody was aware. We need to go back to the Senate and House. What are the implications of all these acts before they come to the limelight? We shouldn't be shouting now if we have done the right thing at the policy level. Because if you look at it today, the so-called cybersecurity, there's a provision for it under NASENI, Nigerian Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure. You know, there is a provision for anything infrastructure in NASENI, which is 0.25% of the revenue from the companies. The banks are paying it. They are paying 0.25% of the profit before tax. You know, and it is about infrastructure. Why should we also allow another levy to pass through our Senate and our House of Rep? But everything that is being charged today is coming back to the common man on the streets. Because we are businesses, we will transfer that cost. There is no doubt about it. That was why it was actually easier for service providers, money point to pay, to enter an agreement and sign off, because they are not going to bear that cost. They are going to transfer it back to the common man on the street. I think it's a challenge to the civil society to wake up and start asking questions. What have we done with our stamp duty charges? That is even more. Do we even have account for it? Can they even account for it? It's enough to settle all our challenges in Nigeria.
All right, Mr. Fashion, I'm supposed to let you go now, but just before you go, briefly now, we don't see money at our ATMs anymore. The money now seems to be with POS. And the story going around is that banks sell cash to POS. How do you react to that? Okay, it's actually, let's give a dog a bad name in order to hang it. Anybody with that fact of that such transaction should come out. The reality is we have over 3.8 trillion cash in circulation. It's not that there was no cash in circulation, but people are not bringing their money back to the bank. They are not depositing. Go and look at the bank books now. They are not receiving. So cash are now exchanging hands at agent location. So my mama and my baba, they prefer to come to agent location to come and deposit cash. That is why you have availability of cash at agent location, not at the bank, because they are running away from all these charges. Imagine if you deposit above 500,000 naira as an individual. The policy of CBN is insisting that they must charge you processing fee of 2%. If you are a corporate organization, deposit 3 million, you'll be charged 3%. It was just yesterday night, CBN quickly postponed the implementation till November again. But the reality is that we need to reconsider all these exclusive policies that are pushing people out of the banking system. There is a need for us to sit down and think about it before it's too late. You can see the figures. They are crashing every day. You'll be shocked when a final report on financial inclusion is out. You'll be shocked that we may go back to the olden days of 30%. Wow, that would be sad. I think we're at 70% now. That's for the rural, for the urban. For the general, we have 76%. As at today. So, no, not even as at today, as at the last final report. As at the last final report, yes. That was before the introduction of most of these new policy of the CBN of about linking your BVN and NIN to the account. A lot of accounts, over 2 million accounts have been locked out because of lack of BVN and NIN, because they are not available. NIMC has shut down most of the agent locations. You know, you hardly, because they are in the process of revalidation. Up till today, none of their apps have actually worked at agent locations. So before now, ask questions. What has been the figure of NIN enrollment between January and today? You will be shocked that we are back to the olden days. There is a need for us to expand the access to most of these critical financial services before we come up with all these regulations. Access first. All right, Mr. Fashasi. Yes, we obviously have a whole lot to say. President, National President, Association of Mobile Money Agents in Nigeria, in short, POS. Yeah, POS operators. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Turner. All right. Okay, so now let's move to another conversation now. Mr. Fashazi, we have to charge him for some extra time. He did take our time there. Looking at what's going on in the food and beverages industry, we're going to be discussing with the Finance Director of Cadbury Nigeria PLC, Mr. Gagaloge. Mr. Loge, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. Well, I know that POS conversation and then the cybersecurity also will affect you, because it will affect when you pay for your airtime, when you buy petrol and all of that. Have you taken time to look at that, or what have you heard about that cybersecurity levy? Good morning. Good morning, Alice, first. I think I was listening to the conversation from the President. I think those are additional costs that will probably affect consumers, because they'll have to bear that cost. Like I said, that cost will be passed to the common man. So, and in terms of companies too. And companies too. So that would also increase our cost of doing business. All right. So now we've seen Cadbury's report pre-tax loss 28.2 billion, full year 2023, a decline from 1.3. Is this all about the forex? I mean, the loss that you recorded last year? If you look at the financials critically, even the one for Q1, you will see that we actually made an operating profit. So operating profit is actually the profit you use in running the business. But after operating profit, that's where you see the FX losses. So the FX losses, I think, for last year was about 31 billion. So which is actually what wiped out the entire profit that we made that year. And then we saw PMI, standard PMI. We saw a moderate increase, 51.1. They said there were new orders. Do you feel that new orders? Can you tell us it's a reality that there were new orders, talking about the PMI, the purchasing? Yeah, I saw that report. Actually, we're hoping that things would get better. You saw the FX rate now. It was, I think 6 weeks ago, it was 1,001, 1,002, but now it's 1,004.
That's also additional cost. And those costs, of course, for us to continue to make profit to run the business, you need to pass on those costs to your products. And once you pass that cost to your product, you have to take price increase. Whenever you take price increase, you know what happened to consumers? They had to step back because they have to actually check how much they have in their pockets. So I'm hoping that we're able to get an increase, because if you get an increase like Stanbic is forecasting, it means that what we sell, the volume of what we sell will actually go up as well. But we don't see that coming in so soon because of the recent devaluation of the Naira. Because if the Naira stays at a particular level, I heard you said you were hoping to get to 700 Naira.
I'm praying. I will not give up.
I will join in that prayer. But once that happens, you just imagine the benefit that we'll see in most of the FMCG sector. Because once the dollar goes up, it affects our input costs. We have to bear that cost and pass that cost to the consumer. Otherwise, it will affect the quality of goods that we produce.
Yeah, but if we try to make lemonade out of lime, wouldn't it be a good time to turn to local raw materials as a way to cut off the impact of FX?
So that's the point. The local materials have an impact to FX. For instance, cocoa beans is planted in Nigeria, is produced from Nigeria, but the price of cocoa beans goes up if the dollar changes, because the man will also want to export. If he's exporting and getting good rate from exporting it, why would I sell to you at a loss? So in spite of whether it's a local production, the point is that it will have the cost of producing that local goods has an impact to the FX. So if the FX goes up, you expect the local goods as well to also go up.
So there's no way we can, hedge around this FX with
It's difficult. Local? It's difficult because the point is that it's like you see inflation. Once you have the devaluation, it affects common goods on the streets, because we are an import-dependent nation. And even though the local man wants to produce locally, he also needs to get some materials. Some might be imported. Some might have import FX impact on it as well. So that's why the issue is that the dollar and Naira, we need to find our level. It needs to get to a state whereby you can actually plan well. Because how can you wake up one morning, it was 1.2, all of a sudden it goes to 1.3, 1.350, 1.4. No one knows what's happening. No one knows what's causing that. So it's difficult for you to plan with that kind of rates going up and down.
So for your industry now, the food and beverage industry, what do you see as, by the end of this year, inflation? We're hoping that by the end of the year, before the end of the year, it will peak and then it will start declining. But what do you see when you look at the macroeconomic indices and then the industry that you operate in?
Last year was tough. So I think you saw the results for most of the listed companies in the FMCG industry. Last year was very tough. So the losses we made from FX was huge. I think this time last year was about 400 and something Naira. Then before the end of the year was about 900, 1,000 Naira. Now it's 1,400. I don't think it will get to that difficult situation we find ourselves, because I think most of us were living in the fact that, okay, with 430, 450, it gets to 700, you're fine. But we saw the real rates, I think in the first quarter of this year, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. But now at 1.4, the point is that I don't think we will be in that kind of difficult situation we were last year. So I think most of us now this will probably like a recovery stage. For most of the issues we've had last year, most of the losses we've made last year, we need to now start running the business in a manner that it will be profitable. We'll manage out, because when you take pricing, it affects your volumes. So you just need to it's more of a recovery stage that we are.
But how do you recover when the Naira is even less valuable than it was last year?
You see the Stanbic report. They talked about the fact that pricing has gone up significantly. You look at the price of bread. This same time last year was about 500, 600. Now it's over almost 2,000 Naira. So you have to take pricing to recover your cost. So once you're able to take pricing in a manner that you recover your cost, you should be able to stabilize the business. The point is that if the dollar continues to change rapidly, then it becomes very difficult, because once you continue to take pricing regularly, it affects the consumer. They'll probably just drop the product and find something else to consume, and that will affect your business. So I think what we're hoping is that we're seeing some of the reforms that the CBN is doing, and we're hoping that the Naira stays stable. If it stays stable, we should be able to plan, and at least that plan should probably help us stabilize the business this coming year.
Yeah, but a lot of businesses have also had to re-strategize, cutting costs, re-strategize their production and all of that. Isn't Cadbury doing something like that?
No, everyone is doing it. Everyone is doing it because the point is that why will I have a factory that can produce lots of volumes, but yet I'm only getting about 10-15% of it. So I have to cut the cost to actually match the revenue I'm getting. Otherwise, you'll be able to match your revenue and your cost. So I think everyone is doing it.
I hope that's not affecting quality, though.
No, that's the point. For us, quality is important. Quality is very, because the point is that if I begin to manage my quality because of costs, you won't even want to pay that price for the product. So the point is that quality has to remain. Otherwise, why are you buying those products?
All right, we certainly hope there'll be a level of certainty, in every industry, not just in the food and beverages. And we'll see better numbers. I know the Q1 numbers are already out.
Yes.
And they're looking a bit better than full year of last year.
Correct, yes.
So we're hoping that full year of 2024
that we have something to rejoice about, yeah.
At least smile if we don't laugh.
Exactly.
All right, Mr. Gagaloga, the Finance Director of Cadbury Nigeria PLC, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, talking about finance now, let's look at how the market fared yesterday. I don't think it was, something to rejoice over, but it was down 0.48%. That's for the NGX at 98,228.50, and the market cap is still around 55. Funny number, 55 right there, trillion naira. That's what we had. Top trades again, dominated by the Fugas, the big guys, UBA and Access Co, Transco. And Transco's results has been looks really, really good, but there was a lot of profit taking in the market yesterday, especially in the Fugas. I think the Fugas were down at the close of trade yesterday. Well, as I always tell you, at 1 p.m. you have more into market today to be with Anita Edet. I believe he has a whole lot of conversation waiting for you at 1 p.m. But on the whole, we have 55 minutes of global business journey on Business Incorporated. You don't want to miss it. Join me then. Back to the Sunrise Daily Studios.
Ensuring a safer highway is the objective of this area patrol. Nigeria Police Force says it's determined and will continue to comb the Abuja-Kaduna highway and rail tracks and indeed every nook and cranny for criminals. With the patrol over, the police parade suspects, including the alleged mastermind of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack, Ibrahim Abdullahi, who is the leader of a kidnap syndicate terrorizing passengers plying the Abuja-Kaduna highway.
The same thing. This set of people are those that are attacking our power generation plants.
At a news conference in Kaduna, the police public relations officer explains how the suspect was arrested.
You will recollect that on 12th January 2024, police operatives attached to anti-kidnapping unit of Kaduna State Criminal Investigation Department, CID, based on credible information swept in and arrested one Ibrahim Abdullahi, A.K. Mande, at Abuja-Kaduna Road, flyover by Rido Junction. The suspect confessed to being the leader of a kidnap syndicate terrorizing Kaduna-Abuja highway, ranked among other criminals like Dogo Gide and Bello Toji.
The police reel out statistics of other suspects arrested from January 2024 to date.
On February 29, 2024, vigilant operatives of the Kaduna Command Monitoring Unit conducted a well-coordinated operations at the residence of a suspected kidnapper. On 7th of April 2024, police operatives attached to the 4th Intelligence Department Special Tactical Squad in Abuja, in collaboration with Operation Yaki operatives in Kaduna Command, arrested one Abubakar Umar, aged 20 years. Please mark the age or ages of some of the suspects we are showcasing today.
On March the 28th, 2022, suspected terrorists bombed the Abuja-Kaduna rail tracks. The train derailed after an improvised explosive device planted by the terrorists exploded underneath one of the coaches.
The terrorists surrounded the train, shooting sporadically and killing 9 passengers, after which over 100 others were abducted.
And there you have it there. Past reports we've done on security, and that's because our conversation is switching from the economy to security, even though both of them are linked to each other. Joining us right now on the program is Mr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi. He is the former chairman, Committee on Prosecution of Bandits and Related Offenses. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about the federal government's policies on security. Thank you so much for joining us on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk a bit about it. You know, we've seen that report where they looked at, people who, the parade of suspects, really. And we see that happen quite a lot with the police and whatnot. But we're looking at another situation that's happened. This one in Gusau, in Zamfara State, where the manager of Taj Bank, Gusau branch, Mansu Kaura, was, kidnapped at his residence. In fact, we're hearing that the bandits invaded his house that is in Gidandari bypass at around 12 a.m. and they whisked him to an unknown destination. And we're seeing a lot of these kinds of stories coming up. What do you think is causing this persistent banditry, thing that keeps happening, especially around northern Nigeria? We've heard a governor actually say that, look, this is the business now. People are using this do you agree with that? What's really going on?
The issue of insecurity in Nigeria is highly alarming. Despite of killings, armed banditry, cattle stealing, kidnapping for ransom across the northern Nigeria, but each and every region in the northern Nigeria has a peculiar security challenges. In the northwest, the persistent armed banditry, kidnapping for ransom, cattle rustling, displacement of innocent people from the various communities. It contributed to a lot of the issue of insecurity. Has a lot of components. Now, going by what is happening now in the Northwest, it has been turned to a criminal enterprise, where you see you see some security personnel are involved, traditional rulers, logistics suppliers, quack doctors, a lot of things, even motorcycle sellers. So what attributed to the insecurity in the northern Nigeria, or persistent insecurity in northern Nigeria, is corruption, injustice, unemployment, high level of illiteracy, bad governance, proliferation of smaller and lighter arms, porous border, injustice in the part of judiciary, and also inadequate security personnel to curtail the security situation, especially in the Zamfara State. The military there are underfunded, under-equipped, understaffed, under-motivated. So with what is happening in Zamfara, that is persistent a rise of armed banditry, kidnapping for ransom on daily basis, destruction of lives and property, killings, blood spilling, and the displacement of innocent people. The manager of the Taj Bank, Mansour Kaura, who was kidnapped, I think on Tuesday, 12 a.m. in Gidadari in Gusau, the bandit invaded his house. They were shooting indiscriminately, but none of his neighborhood will come to his rescue because this bandit has a sophisticated weapons. And if anybody come, including security personnel, the Mansour Kaura house is even near mobile police base. They cannot come to his rescue.
Which mobile police base? The one in Gusau?
Mobile police base in Gusau. And also not far from DSS office in Gusau, and also not far from also military base in Gusau, the same Gusau in Bypass Road. So for you to know that the security doesn't have even the sophisticated weapons which the criminals and bandits has. So this is one of the contributing factor. This week only, many communities were sacked by this bandit. In Marado local government, in Jambako, in Faru, in Magami Didi. This morning, even as I'm talking to you now, in Sakajiki, in Kauranamoda, they have burned down the salons, shops, burned down houses, killed people, and kidnapped unspecified number of
You're
people.
from Zamfara.
I'm from Zamfara State.
Let's talk
also
a bit.
in Zulmi local government.
Zamfara has had this problem
So
for a very long time.
yeah, more than a decade.
For decades.
Yeah.
We all know in Zamfara you can't travel early in the mornings. You shouldn't be out in the night.
Yes.
In fact, I remember they will tell us, no, let's say we plan a trip. Let's say we're going to Sokoto.
Yeah.
We'll say, no, you can't leave at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning. We have to wait till about 10 for us to be able to pass. And they say it's because of the activities of bandits. Why Sokoto? Is it the mineral resources that is the problem? Is it still that problem that we're dealing with right now?
You see, this issue of banditry has a lot of factors that are attributed to the persistent increase or galloping rate of this banditry. You know, Zamfara is blessed with solid minerals deposit. And the activities of the illegal miners has some relative, has to have some symbiosis relationship between the illegal miners and armed bandit. Most of the armed bandit also are also illegal miners. And also illegal immigrants from the neighboring country, Nigeria Republic, even some Chinese, form part of the illegal mining. And Zamfara has one of the highest gold deposit and also some metallic minerals, which has a higher monetary value, like lithium now. Zamfara has one of the richest lithium. And now with the discovery of the electric motor vehicle, a lot of people are now trying to diversify the source of energy, lithium. And that is also one of the factors that also gave a rise to the illegal mining and armed banditry. So it is a lucrative business criminal enterprise where you find a traditional rulers, hard drug sellers, security, lawyers, people even who are installing DSTV solar system in their hideout. So it's something foreign and something that needs a drastic measure.
So let's talk a bit about the measures.
Yeah.
Last year, Mr. Dele Alake, the Minister of Solid Minerals, he was talking about some partnership with the Ministry of Defense and National Security Advisor. They were trying to come up with some new security outfit that will be responsible for mining sites, which is one of the biggest issues that Zamfara has. I remember during the Buhari administration, they came up with the artisanal
miners, artisanal and small-scale miners.
Yes, and I remember it was because of the gold deposits. I remember that they had gotten all the gold that they got from these artisanal miners and put it together and showed it to Nigerians and said, look at what it has done. It has reduced the amount of illegal miners because now you can just sell directly to the government at the same amount and get the same price. So you don't have to be smuggling gold up and down the place. But let's talk a bit about that collaboration between Solid Minerals and the ONSA and the Ministry of Defense. Did that collaboration come to fruition? Are there people who are guarding these mining sites?
The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, has come up with a partnership with the Nigerian Civil Defense, Nigerian Police Office, National Security Advisor, Office of Minister of Defense, to collaborate and bring out one team called mining police of mining marshals. So this mining police or mining marshals are yet to be inaugurated. It has been inaugurated, but this mining marshals, I think they say they are going to train 60 or 70 marshals per state, and they are going to use drum. So it has not come to practice, but they say they are training them. And looking at also the other program you are talking about is called FAGMI.
PAGMI, yes.
PAGMI.
Yes, I remember this.
Yes. Presidential Artisanal Miners Something Goal Initiative. PAGMI.
That was during the Buhari administration. Does it still exist? Is PAGMI still
exist? It doesn't exist.
Right now?
Yeah, it was just on the screen of the television, but it's not practical now. And since that time, when they came out with that goal, have you ever seen anything going on? The money was set aside in billions of naira with the former central bank governor. None of the artisanal miners or small-scale miners who has access to that funds. So that funds, government should even form part of the investigation. They're investigating the governor of central bank. They have to find out where the money have gone to.
I just need to understand what you're saying to me.
Yeah.
You're saying that PAGMI that was created in Buhari administration, you're saying that whole launch, they showed us the gold. You're saying nothing happened after that?
That PAGMI is a scam because it has not seen the light of the day. Since it has been flashed on the television, nobody have ever seen anything practical. Since after that presentation of the gold to the Mr. President on PAGMI, nobody ever, any miner in Nigeria who have ever seen anything so-called PAGMI. It is not in existence, it is just a theoretical, not practical.
Let's talk a bit about your time as Chairman Committee on Prosecution of Bandits and Related Offenses. What were some of the major, maybe not challenges, but some of the trends that you noticed at the time when you were chairing this?
There's a lot of challenges and a lot of stumbling blocks we have faced in trying to find out a lasting solution to armed banditry and other related offenses during the past administration. The most worrisome and what had drawn back the issue of insecurity in Zamfara State is playing politics with the insecurity in Zamfara State by the opposition party as at that time. Some politicians have used insecurity to campaign against the immediate past governor, who is now the present Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale. So it's one of the challenging factors we have faced. We have been advising the politicians, both the members of APC and PDP and other political parties, that they should stop playing politics with the lives and property of the people of Zamfara State. It is time for governance. It is not time for politicking. But people use it as a campaign weapons, tools against the past administration. And up to today, it is from fire to frying pan.
You mean from frying pan to fire?
Yeah. So from fire to frying pan. Many people are in captivity more than I can tell you in a particular community in Zulmi local government. Bandit attack the Emir Palace of Zulmi local government, Zulmi Emirate. Kidnap what we call Shamaki, that like his chief security or chief protocol officer. They kidnapped him, took him to their hideout in the bush. More than 600 people were in captivity in that particular camp. They call him Dus Nkura camp. Is one of the bandits. So that Zulmi, they came to even kidnap the emir, who's aged 82 years old man. And but with intervention of the military, they overpowered them and they have not succeeded in getting interest to that. They attacked an emir palace in Maradu local government. Attack Emir Palace in Bungu local government. Attack Emir Palace in this thing. I think Zulmi, yes, not Zulmi. Maradu Maru. So the bandits are even after the emirs. So that is the major problem. We have also been when we are trying to also prosecute this thing. Some security officers compromise. Some traditional rulers compromise.
You're basically leading.
You understand?
You're towing the same line as the governor. I think it was a Katsina State governor who was saying this recently, that this is a business now.
It's
something
a criminal
that's
enterprise.
And
that's a value chain.
That yes, there's a value chain that involves, and you've mentioned a few security operatives.
Yeah.
What can be done?
And even some justices.
What can be done about the situation? Is there any solution in your mind?
No, there's a lot of solution.
Okay.
The solution is two ways. The government has to tackle this issue of insecurity for this country to remain united and for us to have a peaceful coexistence and to maintain peace and stability in the country. So the solution, government should go into two approach. Kinetic and non-kinetic approach. That is carrot and stick approach. When those who are ready to embrace peace, dialogue, then the government should listen to them and also accept them. And those who are not also ready to accept peace dialogue, there should be a total military action against them. And also, the government should check the corruption in the border, corruption in the judiciary, bad governance. Let me tell you, Zamfara State, is governed by the bandit. Because the governor have lost control of the state. Because governance, in a simple terms, it means decision making. And a process of implementation of decision or not implemented. So now the bandit are the one imposing levies to villagers if you want to stay. They impose levy to farmers if you want to farm. And even that is one part of the food insecurity in the country. And looking at the also inflationary rate now, with this banditry has contributed to the issue of inflation rate in the country. So the solution, there should be a border control. There should be also more security should be recruited, should be trained, should be motivated, and should be fully funded. In Zamfara now, there is no available military vehicles, operational vehicles. And there's no available APC, this armored personnel carrier vehicle, which they call Kunkuru, that can enter into the bush to fight these criminals. So also the issue of land. These people are complaining of injustice, in jungle justice. Some of them have no access to the market, to hospital, you understand? They are citizens of Nigeria. So we should also try to look at who are the criminals, who are not criminal, and they should be allowed also to have a freedom of movement. Yesterday in Mada, in Gusau local government, on the market day, they came into the market, killed people, attacked security vehicles, burned down security vehicles. So what we are seeing in Zamfara, people are seeing hell. People are killed on daily basis.
I think my colleague in Ayo probably has a few questions for you. Ayo, over to you.
Kayla. Well, Mr. Shinkavi, the number one question that comes to my mind, listening to you paint these pictures, definitely gory, and it doesn't in any way remonstrate the issues that you're raising. But how come with all of these scenarios that you have painted, when elections come, we still have elections hold in these communities and we have results from these elections? Is it that insecurity goes under when elections are coming up or what?
In every election period, some of these activities are being fived down because many security personnel are being deployed in some of these areas. And INEC also used to do cluster polling units. Some of the polling units where it is been under the occupation of armed bandits have been formed on cluster form. Have been migrated from the danger zone maybe to the nearest town where it has security. So that is how election is conducted. It was conducted in Zamfara under heavy security, and some polling units have been migrated from their original center to another close by town where there's a security coverage. That's how election is conducted in Zamfara State.
So when you say that the governor has lost control of the state and that the state is now being governed by bandits, what do you want Nigerians, particularly indigenes of Zamfara State, to make of that comment?
Yes, this statement I'm making is not a political statement, it's the reality on ground. Because on daily basis, there's rampage of this armed banditry across the state, including the state capital. The manager of the Taj Bank has been kidnapped in the seat of power of the state, and even close to the security base, military base, even DSS office, and also mobile squadron. So what was saying that the rampage of armed banditry is even beyond the state governor. If the armed bandit can come into the seat of the power in the state, kidnapping people, killing people indiscriminately, so the governor has lost control. All the 14 local government of Zamfara, without exception, is under siege of these armed bandit leaders.
Just 1 second, Mr. Shika, because we're running out of time now. But, people listening to you right now would say that perhaps, maybe also referencing what some people have said over time, that these so-called bandits are not unknown to leaders in the various communities where these things happen. If that is correct, what is stopping us from putting this issue to rest once and for all? Why can't we end this carnage that you're talking about and let there be peace and development in Zamfara State?
Most of these bandits, not only in Zamfara State, in Kebbi State, in Sokoto State, in even Niger State, in Kaduna State, in Katsina State, are all indigenous. 80% of them are indigenous. All these bandit leaders, they are known, and people know their even parents. Like Bello Turji, he's from Shinkapi local government where I come from. His father and mother are all from Shinkapi local government. He was born and brought up in Chidai village, under Kware district, in Fake. So all of these 80% are indigenous. And what we have been always advising the government should go into two approaches. That is kinetic and non-kinetic approach. Like in my community, Shinkapi local government is only the most peaceful local government in Zamfara State, because the locals had decided to go into dialogue with the Turji, the notorious armed bandit kingpin, who is the same rank with Dogo Gide and Ibrahim Ibn Mohammed Mande. So the community leaders there and religious leaders decided to go into peace dialogue with Bello Turji. In all the districts we have, in the two emirates, there was no report of armed banditry, killings, kidnapping for ransom, displacing of innocent people from their community for the first 10 days and 10 months. So the people on their own decided to go into dialogue with him because they know his parents. And that is how there was no report of banditry in Shinkapi local government. From Kaura Junction to Shinkapi, you can travel anytime you wishes, in the morning, in the night. So if the government can initiate or copy from what the Shinkapi community did, I think it is good to go.
You know, I was going to say, you know, Governor Dauda Lawal, who's probably going to see this, because I know they're going to send this clip to him. Many people from the state might say, oh, this is a political issue because, you know, Dauda Lawal is PDP, you're from the All Progressives Congress. Isn't it possible that it is the opposition that is making the state ungovernable for him?
No, this doesn't have any political undertone. Because Motole was there, banditry was there for more than a decade. Yeah, Abdulaziz Yari was in government from 2011 to 2019. And the banditry was there for 8 years. Then the period of Motole was Abdulaziz Yari is 12 years. And Ododa is less than a year now, about almost a year now. So I'm not making political statements.
Do you think he will be able to handle the situation?
He cannot. He cannot.
Well, he was voted by the people. There must be some kind of capacity that he has.
He has his limit. He has inaugurated Community Protection Guard. And the commandant for the Community Protection Guard made some comments a few weeks ago on which he was suspended, that since the creation of the Community Protection Guards, they were not fully funded and they are not well equipped.
Well, we do have to wrap it up there because that's all the time that we have. But we wish him the best, don't we?
No, we wish him the best.
Yes.
We have no any other home apart from Zamfara State. And we have been urging people to keep politics aside and support him to tackle the insecurity.
Thank you so much.
And that is good for him and good for us.
Thank you so much for being with us on the program. Sani Abdullahi Shenkafi, former chairman committee on prosecution of bandits and related offenses. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
And that's all the time that we have this morning on Sunrise Daily. Thank you so much. Ayo.
Well, it's been a wonderful one, hasn't it? Ayo Makinde. Do have a wonderful day. We saw your messages on X. Thank you and have a wonderful day.